All right, welcome back. So now let's get into angles in trigonometry. So we're going to explore a little bit more of angles outside of a right triangle, but to do that, we still need to kind of understand what exactly makes up an angle. And hopefully in your geometry class, you've maybe talked about that an angle, remember, is just the measurement of rotation between two rays. And a lot of times when we just, look at shapes, we just see those two rays as being like sides of a triangle or sides of an octagon and so on and so forth. But that measurement of rotation is what makes up an angle. And we need to kind of remember what are the different properties of an angle? Can angles be positive? Can they be negative? Inside of a triangle, it doesn't really make sense for an angle to be negative, right? But what about maybe just the rotation between two rays? Does it make sense for an angle to be negative, or are they just always going to be positive? What about measurement of an angle? We've talked about degrees a lot, and especially in geometry, we focus and rely on degrees. And most students, when I say 90 degrees, 360 degrees, students have a conception of how big that is. But is there maybe a better way for us to measure degrees? We have different measurements for length, we have different measurements for weight. Is there different measurements for us to measure the rotation between any two rays? And then also, what about the different types of angles, right? I think, up to this point, we basically just kind of look at angles as being, acute if they're less than 90, but greater than 0. If they're 90 degrees, that means, they're going to be have the little square, but that's going to make a 90-degree angle or a right angle. We have obtuse angles. That's between larger than 90, but less than 180. We have the straight angle, which makes up a line. And then you have an angle that creates a full revolution, which would be 360 degrees. But, can we go larger than that? Can we keep on measuring a rotation that's larger than 360? These are some of these questions that we're going to explore inside of this chapter. And I really just wanted to, kind of bring these questions up to you. So as we're looking at these different types of ways to view angles, you can see how they relate to what you already know about angles. And that's the purpose of this section, is we're going to further investigate angles in trigonometry, as well as, look at how they relate to one another and from what we have already learned in the first section. So go ahead and look at the guided notes that I have for this section, so you can kind of see how we're going to be moving along for this. And then in the next video, for notes and processes, we'll kind of cover these essential definitions that you're going to want to know, as well as work through some problems to kind of give you that foundation that you're going to want as we move through understanding of angles in trigonometry. And then you can go ahead and finish off this section with your check your understanding quiz. I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.